And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be discussing the new season 10 of American Horror Story, double feature. But before we start, please hit that upvote, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel because we plan on reviewing all the episodes of this season. Um, let's go into I guess the theme of this season is double feature, and therefore we're getting two stories. The first story being titled Red Tide, which deals with a coastal town, and then the second one is going to be Death Valley. Now I just found out today because I checked the Red Tide storyline, the one that we're going to be talking about mostly today because we watched the first two episodes. It's only going to be 6 episodes, and then the Death Valley story will only be 4 episodes. So that's interesting. You know, most seasons are in the 10 to 12 episode range, so more condensed story. But just what do you guys think of that being the theme this year, and the fact that we're not getting as long of a story, we're getting more condensed stories? Yeah, just curious what you guys thought about that.
I don't have any personal issue with that shit. We've watched several short shows. How many was Perry Mason? 8?
That's
Was it?
something like that. Yeah.
It was either 6 or 8 also. So I don't have any issue with it being like that. I would like it to be 6 of each. I would have liked that a little bit better, or 5 of each, have it be even a little bit. I'm a kind of a nerd for symmetry. I don't like it being 6 and 4. That kind of bothers me a little bit.
I'm wondering if they'll connect in any way. Like, they haven't said, but I don't know.
You know, yeah, that's one thing I've been wondering, if there's going to be like a connection in any way, because oftentimes there's through lines, but like you're saying, I wonder if there's going to be a bigger one this season. I remember a lot of the earlier seasons, we did have like hints of aliens, I think, in some of those earlier seasons of American Horror Story.
Season 2.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
So they might be trying to connect everything with this one. But as far as the format, I kind of like it. It says to me that, maybe the studio wanted what you traditionally get with American Horror Story, at least like a 10 to 12 episode season. And they didn't really have a story that they could stretch that far without, literally stretching it. Well, not literally stretching it, but stretching it in ways that would make it boring in parts, or would cause them to have to fill in gaps. So instead, they told 2 smaller stories because that's what they had, and that's a good sign. And hopefully, if they don't have those big stories, that this is a thing that they can continue with in future seasons if the show's going to continue.
They signed, I want to say 2 or 3 more seasons have been renewed. So yeah, they're not going anywhere. It's a big ratings get for FX. They do very well. And it's in terms of them connecting, because I was also thinking, so we're it's full spoilers, and like, so we're just going to discuss the episodes we saw. Initially I thought, based on the trailer, that Red Tide would be about fish people, or some kind of sea creatures that have come to the land. Nope. It was way off base there. And instead we're dealing not even with anything supernatural, or not even really they're monsters, but they're being created through a drug, and so some sort of like a vampire thing. But anyways, point being, it's more of a science thing. Like, okay, here's a drug that was created by somebody, and if the second part is going to deal with aliens, perhaps that carries over. Like I said, it might not at all, but I was curious and just thinking about that. Like, oh, maybe we'll get the answer to who created this drug in the second half, or maybe not at all. But that was something I was thinking about with this season.
Well, I thought it was cool that, like you said, it didn't feel supernatural. It felt like drug based. And, they start getting to the point where I believe Evan Peters' character, whose name I don't remember his name.
Austin Summers.
He mentioned that the reason you're craving blood is because that medicine depletes your body of the nutrients that blood replaces, like iron and everything else. So that's the reason that they're craving it. The crazy part is just like every drug that has side effects, it affects everyone differently. It almost felt like a Japanese horror movie, the way that the vampire looking guys moved, the Nosferatu looking.
Well, yeah,
because that was an interesting, because they say that, okay, if you have talent and you take this drug, it heightens that talent. If you don't, it zombifies you or makes you, and even within vampire lore, sometimes you have sort of the higher ranking vampires and then the more zombie like primal ones. And that seems to be how this works.
Yeah, it seems to be that sort of thing, and on top of it, there's clearly some deeper allegories and metaphors also, but that's it's definitely, like you said, the tier list of vampires. Like at first I thought, like, are these ghouls? But no, they're the same thing. They're just like you said, a lower class of vampires. And as far as the metaphor, I do love the fact that Evan Peterson himself was like, he's like, what does it mean metaphorically? He's like, I don't know. He's like, but this is what it literally means. Like why you need the blood, why you actually need the blood. As sort of a fourth wall breaking nod to the audience in a way. I thought
That
that was
scene was straight up fourth wall breaking. Yeah, I love that.
I thought that was pretty funny. I mean, I'm enjoying his character and a lot of the characters in this overall. Well, I mean, it's got a lot of my favorite actors in it. You're talking about Evan Peterson, Macaulay Culkin, just the general American Horror Story cast.
Of course, Sarah
they're
Paulson killing
Yeah.
it. It's Karen.
Well, I mean, I love Evan Peters in this. He does a great job, but Macaulay just seems to be playing a slightly different version of his party monster character.
Yeah, even his style and everything.
True, that's true.
Let's jump to them real quick because it's interesting. Within this town, you have these. I guess we'll call them vampires, or you can call them whatever you want. But they're clearly rich. They have influence. As we dig deeper, because we're following the main character Harry, and as we follow him as he's entering this world, we see, okay, they have connections everywhere. You have the tattooist slash dentist, and they others know of them. People within the town, they have connections within the police department, and so they have some level of power. And you have Macaulay Culkin's character, who sort of he's in the know. He's aware of what's going on, but he works with them. He's a prostitute and basically also will give blood, to Noir, as she calls herself, for pay. And then in the end, he takes a pill. And so it's like, that stung a little bit, his whole dynamic, because he was like, I've started a million screenplays, but I've never finished one. And I was like, yeah, that hits a little close to home. But him taking the pill, and then he's sitting there and he's having his moment of writing. And then Karen was an artist, and she's fallen to drugs. The other theme this season also is addiction. Clearly addiction's a big part of this season.
Well, yeah, they mentioned that that area has a real problem, and they were mentioning all the different drugs. And then the sheriff was talking about they have a really bad problem with drugs, and that a lot of these people are just tweaking and looking for things to steal, I think, to buy more drugs. And even Harry, God, for his name escaped me too. Not enough episodes in for me to remember their names yet. But they, Harry, it becomes, I think Noir says it. You have a successful, screenplay, and that success is what drives you from here on out. Like that's just as you get addicted to the success just as much as you are to that drug. So you have these people who come up there, write a couple things, they do a couple things, but that success is what drives them to continue to do it. Whereas all these other people are affected by the drug so poorly that now they're just addicts of that drug.
Well, yeah, and it seems like a clear allegory for like the way that we use drugs nowadays in society, or at least the way that they're often used, and because that's what they say, the difference between them and the sort of more ghoul-like vampires that you see walking the street. They're like, well, the only difference is talent. And like, well, the only difference is that they're using it to fuel something, whereas the others, they're so far gone that they're just out there attacking people for blood. Whereas much like someone microdosing in an office, they're taking it to fuel their work. So it just seems like an allegory for like modern drug use and drug addiction.
Yeah. I think it's definitely trying to tap into modern. They talk about the opioid crisis and everything, and then, like you said, Larry, the all the different examples of just what what what's going on in terms of addiction in the country. And yes, Spencer, you're right. Success is itself an addiction. Um, Another theme, inspiration, I thought was interesting. Or you know, he wants to call the drugs called. Well, he names it. Evan Peters names it Muse, and the idea that you have all these artists who just they can't get over that hump and they need something to help push them over. And we have the whole, and we'll get into the wife because that's a whole lot going on with her. Any thoughts on the idea of inspiration and Muse?
I love the name of the drug. It was so cheesy. Because it's exactly what it was. But the drug itself, I am curious, and we talked about it too a little bit, like how it works. So, and we also mentioned it too, how it's going to tie in, who's making it, why they're making it, because just helping these people be more successful, there it doesn't seem to be that big of a. It, I don't I don't know what the draw would be. That would be something that would be super expensive. There's a lot of drugs that are very cheap. There's a lot of different highs you can get for very little amount of money. But this seems to be directed towards a very rich clientele. If you're able to help these people who are already wealthy become more wealthy, that drug, like we said, fueling success, that drug would be very expensive. So whoever is making this, I'm very curious to see what it is that their reasoning behind it is. It's probably Stephen King. It seems
Well,
like
There's
Stephen
a
King.
lot of Stephen King nods
that's
in
true.
all of this. Yeah.
I know it's Massachusetts area and it's not quite Maine, but it does feel very Stephen Kingish.
Be great if they got him to feature in this. Like,
That would be good.
like, but I don't know, because I don't think Adderall costs that much, But I see what you're saying. It does seem to be catered towards, uh, like a very, like you said, wealthy clientele, and or at least they become that once they have the drug and they have enough inspiration and everything. They get very rich. So, and it and
Give him the first couple free.
yeah, and that's what he got. We didn't see him have to pay anyone for it. I wonder what the actual cost is, other than literal blood and sacrificing his family. And there's probably a monetary cost also, and it seems like something that's widespread. That there's a like it's almost implied that most successful writers, and artists that they're coming to this town, vacationing, taking this pill, or coming to towns like this because like he even in the grocery store where dude's like, let me guess, you're a writer, that kind of thing. People just seem to know.
Yeah, because I wonder as it progressed, like you said, I never saw any kind of payment for the drug. And is it something where they seek out talent? They're like, okay, Harry, we think he may be legit. They give him the pill. He is legit. And they're slowly bringing him into their world. They take him on his first feed. They get him the teeth. And then at some point, is he going to be introduced to, okay, now this is our crew and this is how things work. You give a cut to this guy. I'm, just speculating, but I wonder, it seems like they're slowly bringing him in to their world.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it seems like there may be a greater cost, even though the actual cost seems like it's going to be pretty great because it's going to cost him his family, and
Yeah.
he's got to feed
Well,
on blood for the rest of his life.
one his kid took it
Yeah.
Oh
without
yeah, that's
a
a whole.
mile away.
Yeah, let's jump into the family. So you have his daughter Alma, who is a violinist and has ambitions to, you know, be great and be, one of the great violinists. And you have his wife Doris, who very interesting character. She's pregnant. She's an interior decorator, but she repeats multiple times about she doesn't think that he takes her seriously or thinks that she's legit good at it or has a talent for it. That's something that
he,
plays out, and her daughter straight tells her she's shit in one scene. Like that scene was brutal. Um, what were you
I
gonna
was
say,
just
Spencer?
I was just gonna make a joke saying that it's he thinks that she's shit now because she quit her job as the DA after her friend was her friend's husband got convicted of murder. Because that's the DA lady in The Undoing.
Oh, I
Oh
never made the
yeah,
connection.
Lady.
yeah. Um, Now, this is my question before we go into the daughter, because the big cliffhanger in the episode is all about her. And like you said, Spencer, she does take the drug. So there's a scene in, it might have been episode one. It could have been two. I can't recall. I watched them back to back. But Karen is asked to bring a baby to Noir. She takes the baby. We can assume she eats it or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's what she does with it. Doris is pregnant. The moment that the baby was taken to Noir, I was like, okay, the baby is going to factor in some way. How, I don't know. What do they do with these babies? Do they feed on them? Is there something special about their blood, or is there something more to the babies? I don't know. But any thoughts or theories, or did I miss anything involving the baby? And do you think that Doris's baby is going to play in to this?
Yes, I think that Noir ate that baby, and I think that Harry's going to try and eat his own baby. 100%. As soon as Noir ate that baby, I was like, oh, he's going to eat that baby.
Yeah, that was my original thought until you brought it up just now. Now I'm thinking that maybe it's a possibility that, that babies are used in whatever process they use to make these pills. Like it's maybe an ingredient.
Yeah, I was just maybe, because I was thinking it could be something. It could be as simple as they just feed on them. Maybe their blood is special, or there could be more to it. Because the fact that Doris is pregnant, I'm like, all right, that's clearly going to factor in to the story.
Yeah, it seems significant. Like it's like in the fact that, like you said, that Noir asked for a baby, and Doris has a baby. It seems plot relevant so I think it's something bigger than that she just ate it. That was my initial thought, though, that, she just ate the baby.
Me too. I was thinking back to the Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s when they had the baby and all of his brides were going to eat it. I was like, yeah. So Alma takes the pill, and we find her at the end consuming some animal. I couldn't tell what it was. She's drinking its blood. Now, my biggest thought, okay, this was episode 2. There's 6 episodes. That's a hell of a cliffhanger to have 4 more episodes. Like, what is Doris going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my immediate thought. I'm like, what the hell are you going to do? And there's no scenario where she's like, yeah, let's stay in town. Your daughter's drinking blood. So I don't know where does that shit go?
Yeah, I'm very, very curious because with 4 episodes left, this seems like a episode before the last episode kind of thing.
Exactly.
Really does, yeah.
So for this to still have 4 more episodes, how much crazier is shit going to get? Because he kills that one guy under the pier. So
that's a big deal too, because they said no killing in town.
Yep. So because the detective, or not the detective, the commissioner, chief, whatever, they said is really onto them, because the previous one was all about letting them do whatever they wanted, as long as they didn't do it in town. So now with him doing it in town, it's going to start tying back to them. It's going to start getting them, I think, found out. And I am curious as to, I think that's more what's going to happen, kind of like the last season of Game of Thrones, where it was more political and less about the big bad White Walkers. I think that that's what this is going to be about, is them trying to figure out how to deal with the cops coming after them, how to deal with each other, trying to keep each other from snitching on each other. Like, I think there's, a lot of operations going on, not just the drugs, but you have the drug aspect of it. You have the Noir and Evan Peters. You have these 2 higher up people who have been doing this for a long time. You have the dentist. So there's a lot of people who have a lot of money riding on this. What happens if they get found out? So I think that there's going to be a lot of back and forth now that he's killed in town. And that's kind of you don't make child vampires. That's always a thing. it's a big no-no in even Interview with the Vampire. When Kirsten Dunst became a vampire, that was like a huge taboo thing. It's not allowed because they can't control their own thirst. So now you have this kid who's whatever they're calling them, beast, vampire things. So now what are they going to do because she may be a liability? So there's a lot of question marks at the end of episode 2.
Yeah, like Spencer said, it felt like, by episode 2, we were like right before the finale. So, there are a lot of questions like, where do we go from here? How do we, at first, the question was like, okay, how are we going to do this shorter season? Like, can they really compact a story like this? Now the question is like, man, how are they going to flesh all this out? Because we've already, we've kind of come to a head here. There's a lot going on, so I'm curious how this is going to play out myself.
Want to give a note to the karaoke scene, which I quite enjoyed, and the blood smoothie, like that whole scene. I was like, oh, it just turned my stomach, especially as he was wringing out the meat to get the blood in the jar. I'm curious how they did that. Like, what was he drinking? I wonder how.
Blood. He's a
method actor.
There's when I watch scenes like that, I have a hard time because me, I did a lot of stuff in high school. We've done projects together, and I do a pretty good job of staying in character. But I'm a real big person when it comes to like smell and taste. Man, I don't know that I can make it through something like that and keep a straight face. They'd have to make it like Kool-Aid or something like that. Because if it even tasted a little bit weird, I'd be like, oh.
Yeah, he was just drinking like an icy or something, just with some coloring in it. Had to be.
Yeah. Well, that was my thought. I was like, yeah, what? I wonder, because it looked legit.
Bringing out
it did
the hamburger meat. I was like, oh god.
That's about it as far as my notes. I know, Spencer, you texted me, like I said, we can go back into Macaulay Culkin a little bit. I know you're a huge fan of Home Alone. I enjoy. He has a podcast. I've listened to some of it. He's appeared on Red Letter Media's channel a couple times. Angry Video Game Nerd. He's done some stuff with them, and it's always. He just seems like just a cool dude.
Yeah, I think that he's had a little bit of a checkered path, but a lot of child stars do, and it's one of those things where I'd like to see him be successful because he was such a big part of my childhood and my adulthood. Because I still watch Home Alone 1 and 2, multiple times every year. So to see him do well and to still be
master, man.
Good son.
Love that movie.
Yeah. But it's great to see him doing things that are. It's great to see him acting as an adult and doing it well. So I enjoy seeing. It's one of those makes my heart feel all warm and fuzzy when I see him doing anything.
I hope he becomes a regular. Like most of the cast, where he'll return multiple times. Because it's sad because he came back a little bit and then he got out again, and I hope this works out for him.
Yeah, absolutely, because he is a good actor, and it's like he's one of those child actors that I'm glad didn't burn out. Like you said, he had his childhood was so rough, partially due to mostly due to his occupation, seemingly, and it's amazing that he's still doing this work, and he does it well. And like you said, hopefully we can see him in more projects. Hell, hopefully we can see him in future seasons of American Horror Story. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe he's in the second half of the double feature.
That was something I wasn't sure about. Let me check real quick because I want to say that they were. I wasn't sure who all was in if they were just going to carry all the same actors over, or if they were going to try and mix it up and have a few different actors. I think Sarah Paulson, I believe, will be in it. She's in everything, of course. I don't know. I don't know if Peters will be in the second half. I'm looking at the list of actors for the second half right now, and I don't see him. So it's only 4 episodes. But we'll see. Who is this? I don't know this actor. Just looking through the list. But yeah, anything else on we like I said, we got the first 2 episodes and we'll be doing the third this week. Any other thoughts on these 2 episodes?
Nope.
Yeah, I think we about covered it. It'll be crazy to see what happens in the next 4.
Yep, and if you've not subscribed to the channel, please do so because we will be talking about all of them the rest of the season, including the second half Death Valley. We appreciate everyone listening. If you have any thoughts yourself, please leave a comment down below, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.